T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey friends, welcome to another episode of the Launch Sequence Podcast, where we're going to talk about space stuff, particularly Star Citizen. Surprise! I brought in a good friend, editor on the channel, and YouTuber, 10Pound42, to talk about the current state of Star Citizen. It's actually a bit of a retrospective. We met up a couple weeks ago, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, before 4.2.1 went live, to talk about kind of the state of the game in this year of playability. And I think it's a good time for us to do a short-term check back, because a lot has happened since then. You put out a video, I think was great this week, that kind of went through what's going on inside of the company and how it reflects on this event and the things going on. So I thought we could talk a little bit about why we're in the position we are following Star Citizen, what they're even doing, what they could be doing in the near-term future. And I don't know, is Star Citizen dying? It's a conversation we have every single year around this time, because the summer is rougher for video games, but Star Citizen particularly is just historically doesn't have great summers, and we're also in a kind of an information drought. So I think it's going to be an interesting talk. Thank you for joining me for this one, man.
Yeah, very happy to be here. Very happy to rage about all the problems. I mean, no, it's an interesting time. It's an interesting time in the game.
And for the record, for everybody who's watching, I mean, if you watch this podcast regularly, you know, we'll have criticisms. We'll probably have some negatives. This, I think, will be a more critical episode, obviously, because of, you know, the topic at hand. But there's plenty of stuff going on in this game that is worth talking about. That's fun and good. The event itself, I think, is a pretty solid one if the game was working. And I think we've got some interesting stuff coming up in 4.3 we wanted to talk about today, too, that actually could help with some of the bigger problems we're seeing. So relax. We're going to be okay. We'll get through this. Or don't relax if you're like running on the treadmill and listening to a podcast, and let this be your fury and your fire. But 10 Pound. First, I wanted to start off just how have things gone with the video you released? Is that you feel like it got the message across you were going for?
Yeah, so I suppose if people haven't watched it, which is a good chance you won't have, I put out a video basically saying who's to blame for this latest event disaster. And I suppose if you haven't kept up with the latest event, Star Citizen has a new event. It's called Resource. They changed it. It was called Resource Rush.
Resource
and that
Drive.
was Resource Drive. Drive is the official name now, yeah. And so it's all the different corporations in Stanton choose a side, go and collect a load of boxes and deliver them. Go Art Corp. Nobody's really saying that apart from you, I don't think.
Yeah, but, I don't think so. Too bad.
Yeah,
I'm the only one who seemingly likes a cyberpunk planet, I guess. Everybody else wants to get sewage rained down on them, wearing plastic bags to go out to get your groceries, whatever.
Yeah, well, the people who like cyberpunk maybe are playing cyberpunk potentially instead of Star Citizen.
They did just put out, I think they're putting out a new update.
Yeah, they did, yeah. So this event's going on. I basically put out it's been a bit of a disaster from a playability point of view in terms of the start of the event, at least. So it released huge amounts of issues in terms of cargo elevators, outposts, people, just bugs. So it's the idea of put some hot fixes out. Some things have improved, some things haven't. And so basically, my video was, it's sort of, at the start, it started off as like a joking witch hunt of like, who's to blame? Who is this all? Who's at fault for this? Is it mission design? Is it narrative somehow? Or is it marketing? It's always marketing. But I think my conclusion ultimately was that as much as as you go up the company, you get to management and you get to Chris Roberts effectively in the end. The problem right now is that the game isn't the focus of the company. The main focus is Squadron 42, and events like this probably won't improve until Squadron 42 is done. And my suspicion is that CIG will have to do a bit of a restructure to basically change the company from being a game studio that's been basically focusing on a single player sci-fi experience for the last few years, and then they're going to have to pivot to being a game studio focused on an MMO, and that will probably require some restructuring stuff. And anyway, so that was the video, and it's managed to enrage both sides of the aisle in some ways. You've got people who are saying this is not helpful for the company, saying you want everybody to get fired, which isn't quite where I ended up. And then you got people on the other side saying, why are you defending everybody? Why are you defending all the teams that they are to blame? And I just think none of the teams who would have been involved in this event, they've made some mistakes, and I think that's clear from some of the issues with the event. But ultimately, they are working in a pretty tricky scenario in a company that isn't really focused on Star Citizen, and so they've got limited resources, and they're working with broken features and not enough kind of engineers to fix them. Is my suspicion, because the engineers will be working on Squadron again, and then they're also working with a lack of features, and so there's all sorts of reasons why it's probably not any single person's fault, but it has ended up dropping an event in the year of playability that's pretty, at least at the start, pretty unplayable. And so it's been a bit of a PR mess again from CRG's point of view. People are angry, but and I know this is your opinion, at least people are engaged with the game again. Like, people came back for this event. I think the number of people who want to actually do the event and get the rewards has been quite high. So yeah, that's a brief summary. It's been an interesting time, and people are angry on every side of this one, I think.
So a normal Star Citizen summer.
Oh yeah, that's no different from anything. So yeah, it's just standard in some ways. Yeah.
Last year it was master modes. This year it's everything. The funny thing is, like, there's not enough talk about feature development to even, I guess master modes was in the game in 323. There's like not enough even going on to be unhappy about the feature development. So it's all channeled towards what's happening in the game right now at that exact moment. Like, even though this event came out and it'll probably run for the next month and a half, even if it's running great in 2 weeks and there are no problems, it's kind of been tarnished already, because it's very much, what is going on right now. And unfortunately, it's not very playable for a lot of people.
Yeah, and we could probably get into a debate about, and some of the comments on my video have been, well, we're still testers ultimately, even on the live environment. But then on the other side, CRG kind of described this game as a live service. And I think what the problem would be is that if you got home from work on Friday night or whatever and thought, there's this new thing coming out. I've had a busy week at work. Star Citizen, it's in a year of playability. Surely this will be okay. You log on and you just smash your head against the wall for 3 hours trying to get stuff working. If it was any other year, I think people would be like, it's just Star Citizen. What do you expect? Wait a few days and it'll get patched and get better. But in a year where they're saying they want to make things more playable and make it work like a real game, I think it's rightly probably got some people really quite upset, because people's time is fairly valuable, I guess. And as an individual, if you have limited time to play the game, or you're looking forward to something as a way to switch off after a busy week, and this game that you think is supposedly becoming more playable just isn't, well, I think you can get a bit cross about that. So yeah,
you got a lot of choices out there, and to be honest, Star Citizen is still incredibly novel as an experience compared to other games, but that novelty loses its allure pretty quickly when other good games are coming out that are doing things that are kind of similar. Other games are entering early access that look like they have the potential to also chase that market, and the performance of a game makes a big difference as to whether you want to jump in and play it or not. I mean, a lot of people will, like, I had a problem. I was playing The Altars, pretty good game, love it. I really want to make a video about that. And I ran into one glitch that set me back like 3 days in the game, which is a decent amount of gameplay given how that game works. But
good.
Yeah, it set me back 3 days. And then when I got set back 3 days, this same glitch occurred. I didn't realize it was a glitch the first time. The same thing happened. So I was like, okay,
oh no,
this sucks. So I set myself back 5 days to get back prior to something I had done that I think caused the glitch. But by that point, I didn't really want to play anymore. So I haven't even picked up the game in like a week and a half. But I really want to play it. I still really love it. But like, that sort of instability, even if it's just perceived, can be such a roadblock to enjoying a game. And like you said, there's other things to do. It's summer. You touch grass or water or something cool. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so
I mean, it's surprising when it happens in other games. I think that's the interesting thing. I think we started in the back of my mind. I'm always thinking, well, something's going to go wrong. But when you play a real game, maybe, or a finished or close to finished game, you just, it's shocking, isn't it? To have a game ruining bug is like, this is a shock. Whereas in Star Citizen, it still isn't. It's still and almost you're kind of expecting it, but yeah.
yeah. And you do that for long enough and people start to get used to it, and then it kind of calcifies as the game's um, reputation. Like, even after they fix it, the reputation is going to stick around for such a long time. And I think you're right
Yeah.
about the year of playability. I think a big part of the disappointment and feelings this year are around the expectations set, because as far as this year goes, it's been the most productive year in Star Citizen they've had. They're releasing a whole bunch of activity for people to do. They have fixed some of the long-standing problems that people have had, obviously not the biggest ones. The FPS has gone up. I mean, according to you, it's gone up and down, but ultimately it's higher than it's ever been. Server FPS is higher than it's ever been. The shard sizes are like 6 times what they were last year. So, like, they've actually made a lot of progress this year, and I think it's worth acknowledging that. But as far as what they were selling with their messaging, it's the same as, when they come out and tell us that server meshing will be in the game by the end of this year. And then you get to August time and you're like, it hasn't been tested. I mean, basically what happened last year, right? They were like, oh, server meshing this year. We got it. We're going to do it. And then August is coming around and they still haven't done any EPTUs for additional testing. And people are starting to be like, well, yeah, you did some stuff this year and it's doing some cool things, but it's not what you said. And that's where the big disconnect comes from with CIG. It's like their messaging oftentimes is just so far off from reality. And that's part of why they stopped doing their roadmap. It's part of why they stopped having Chris come out on the stage for all of his talks. It's part of why they didn't do calling all devs or 10 for the chairman, all these things that they've cut over the years to just make sure that their messaging is more on point, but they still managed to just confuse people.
Yeah, well, I do wonder now, looking back, whether this is veering into conspiracy theory slash. Yeah, people will take this in different ways, but I'm not sure whether the year of playability is the right name for this year. I think it's a bit of a smokescreen for the real reason for this year, which is this is the year of Squadron 42 finishing. Like I think that's the reality of what this year is. And I think they stopped feature development. They pushed towards content with the teams left still working on Star Citizen. Because I think ultimately because that's what they thought they could pull off this year whilst they finished off Squadron. And because we don't hear anything about Squadron and it's just silently lying there in the background happening, we hope, being finished. We still don't know. Who knows if there's another delay? Who knows what will happen? But it just feels so. It feels what on one hand really flat from a video content point of view from what CIG are putting out. It feels flat from a lack of feature movement forward, which a lot of people said this is a bad idea anyway because the lack of features is not what the game needs at this point. It still needs to be pushed forward in terms of features, and when the content itself doesn't work like it has with this event, then you've got a very underwhelming experience happening in 2025. But yeah, I think they weren't lying when they came out and said it's going to be a year of playability, and when they put out the letter for the chairman. I don't think that wasn't a complete lie. It wasn't like we're not going to do these things. But I think the reality is that Squadron is the priority, and this is the leftover. This is what they could do with their leftover resources for the year. I just really hope that CitizenCon this year is when they start to communicate about Squadron, when they start to do some more marketing stuff, when we start to hear a bit of what's been working on. And because if if this whole year is going to be like this from a content point of view, from CRG's communication, their video content communication, I think people are going to get more and more riled up, because it feels so underwhelming at the moment. It feels so. I mean, this event has almost just came at completely the wrong time for the company. Like, if it had come out and worked really well, it would have been really wonderful. I think it would have really helped over this kind of summer period where the game often can feel a bit boring, and because there's nothing really happening or there's no new news. But because it was already in a tricky place anyway this year, and then this event comes out in as pretty bad a state as it has, it just compounded things and made people just be like, what's going on?
Well, yeah. Then you can't say year of playability and then release something that ends up not being very playable for a lot of people. And I think they were very specific about that. So the letter from the chairman, if I'm not mistaken, came out at the end of last year, right? It was,
I think so. Yeah.
let's see, letter from the chairman. Let me look it up real quick, folks. I believe it came out at the end of last year. And 4.0 was in like the preview,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
It
longer
would have been
than
around that time
anticipated
at least.
release.
Yep.
Yeah. So they ran the preview and they had 3.24.3 still going. So at that point, I don't
Yep.
think they had really grasped just how much they needed to do to make it quote unquote playable. Because I don't think, yeah, because after that, they changed the transit refactor. They split it off and had a team focus on the transit refactor, but then they also had a team focus on the transportation system, which was the actual new system they wanted to use. And this was something that was supposed to come out with 4.0. So they, in that time, realized we can't just do this and get it out quickly. We're going to have to do a lot to make this work. So that's one big point of new work that got dropped onto the team there. Then you have the mission refactor, which, just like with 3.0, we lost missions and contracts when they switched over. But unlike with 3.0, a lot of those were very highly depended on for the gameplay. I mean, after 3.0 dropped, people were very curious about planets. So it didn't matter too much that we lost some of those space missions. We got a lot of interesting stuff in return. But with 4.0, the game didn't change a ton for a lot of people because they were still playing in Stanton. They were just playing with a lot more folks and with better stability. So then you got the mission refactor, which is another load of work trying to get these old missions back into the game that people depended on for like early gameplay. Server meshing has to be stabilized. And then on top of that, something, it seems, happened where they made a call that they needed to add a lot more updates. But it feels like in between that focus on playability letter and what the actual mission that they had to do after that whole January month of planning was, they realized that they needed to shift priorities again. And so I think they got lucky when he said that the focus on playability had 3 critical areas: performance, stability, and content. Now they could just focus on the content, but stability and performance are kind of just like slowly coasting upwards. And again, I think that they're doing a decent job on stability, better than they've done before, but nowhere near the way that they've sort of focused on talking about it. And you can see that from the community. A lot of people will quote them and say that they said year of stability. But no, not a single place have I been able to find someone actually pull that up, that they said year of stability, besides maybe Jared said it in a Star Citizen Live. But the focus on playability was a big thing. And I think that they could have done it if they kept the content playable. They're just, now it's like, yeah, you're dropping in a bunch of content, you're doing monthly patches, but how much of those really pushing things forward? Who do you think made that decision to do all these patches over and over, one after the other?
Oh, yeah, great question. I mean, yeah, it's obviously going to be going up high into the company. Probably looking at somebody like Rich Tyra. If you, interesting thing about all of this would be that they would have had to, probably in the January period, they would have planned out the plan for the year with all the. They would have thought, well, we can do this event here, we can do this thing here, we've got this content coming, we can do this here. They would have planned it out, so it's not as though each month they're just sitting around at the table and going, "Oh, I wonder what we could do this month." As in, there is a sense of planning to all of this, and so yeah, you'd think Rich Tyra, as the kind of head of the PU, would be the guy with. There's that episode from last year where he sits down on a SCL with two other guys. I can't remember who it
Who are
was.
the other higher ups?
Yeah, John, was it Johnny Gisavius and Rick somebody maybe?
Yes.
I think they're they seem to be the three people heading up the PU, and so I assume when they're in some sort of meeting, maybe they're in a meeting with Chris and all the directors for the game, and they're saying, well, we don't know the percentage, but let's go as high as 80%. 80% of the company is going to be focused on getting Squadron 42. What can you pull off with the rest of the 20%? What, Rich, Tyra, what can you do with the rest of the resources that are left over? And they've come to the conclusion that they'll do these patches. I think in some ways, maybe they overshot it. Maybe doing a patch a month was just, at this stage where they had so limited resources, was a mistake. But then I suppose if they knew that they didn't really I also wonder if at that point they knew they weren't going to be able to put out much video content. Like Jared wasn't going to be able to do much. I wonder if they thought, well, we have to just put a patch out a month, otherwise there's nothing going on in the game. There's nothing for people to get excited about or be engaged with. So, I mean, we're completely guessing. We don't know exactly how it panned out, but yeah. The interesting thing is that everybody's saying with this event that's come in, well, they knew that the elevators, freight elevators, didn't work, and there was a load of issues with them. Why would they make an event around them? And the actual interesting question is, this event again, I think would have been planned at the start of the year, and they would have thought, well, we've got the Worm, we've got Hathor, and then we'll do some sort of cargo event there. It's basically a reskin of
Supplier die.
oh, which one? Supplier die, yeah. Some of the similar sorts of missions, deliver stuff, is similar sort of thing. And so the question isn't really, well, would they have in the last few months known if the freight elevators didn't work? The question was, when they planned this at the start of the year, why did nobody say, let's put some engineering resources on fixing the freight elevators so that when we get to this event, it works? But
I think that's a good point. I was actually going to ask if you see rhyme or reason to the way they're doing this, because I would have thought if this was something that you planned out 6-7 months into the year, then the beginning of the year, you're probably going to want to figure out things like how armistice zones are working, or can we get distribution centers updated? Like, it would have been incredibly encouraging. I think the little kind of things that they could build so much more confidence in, if in patch 4.1 they created some kind of alternative to distribution centers for the R-Corp and Crusader areas, and we're all sitting here being like, okay, you add these locations, but like they're not doing anything, right? We just bitch and moan for 3 months about it until suddenly this event comes out. And clearly they had this long-term quarter-by-quarter plan to get locations in place, to get systems in place, so that this event, when it dropped in, was the playable content that they had been focused on. Dude, I think that would have done so much to make people feel better about the leadership in CIG and kind of their overall goals for Star Citizen. The more they do these sorts of things that feel like they weren't planned out, the more I think people lose confidence in the overall plan. And like, okay, if you don't have 6 months laid out ahead of you, what about 2 years?
Oh yeah, let's not even try and think about 2 years. I mean, this was one of the points in my video. I was basically saying the way that CIG is set up right now doesn't work for these events. Like, the events throughout Star Citizen's history, the kind of global or dynamic events, whatever they've called them, they've historically always been pretty bad. Like, there's only probably the start of this year with Fight for Pyro and Supply or Die. They kind of worked. Apart from that, if you go back through the previous Zenith, it was a mess. The Siege of Orison never really worked from a mission flow point of view, as well as bugs and things like that. And then
Remember
obviously you had
Ninetales
things
Lockdown?
like, Well, exactly. Yeah, nobody even played that one,
Yeah.
and so they've never really they've either never worked very well, and they've been broken from a bug point of view, which points to a problem in how CIG QA these events, or the flow of the mission has never really worked, and it's like the Xena threat one. I can't remember exactly what the issues were. There was some crazy stuff where it just was like nobody had thought about these things that were going to happen, and so for whatever reason, and I don't know why they keep doing these events in their current state. The company, I think in the video I said something like they keep adding up 2 and 2 and expecting the answer not to be 4. They keep putting out these events and expecting somehow they're going to just work. But I just think fundamentally they've got to change something in the way they plan these events, that they prepare for them, and then they deliver them. Because this was a disaster. It was a genuine disaster. The fact that it was in the PTU, and it was probably in the PTU maybe a week, maybe even 2 weeks longer than I think most people thought it would be.
It was in the PTU for a
nothing
while.
was happening.
Yeah, people
Yeah,
thought this
it
patch
was
was
like
going to come out in June.
Yeah, there was plenty of time. There was time for them to do some stuff, to fix some stuff, and then it came out in as bad a state as any event I think has for a long time. So, yeah, I just think until they finish Squadron, like I'll say what I said before, but until they finish Squadron, and then they can look at this structure that they've got as a company and design it for an MMO and design it to put these events out, I think this is going to just keep happening. They seem to be unable to put out events without significant bugs in their current form, at least as a company. So
yeah,
it's a bit depressing because whatever they've got planned for the rest of the year, well, is it going to just be exactly the same? It probably will be, I think, unfortunately.
And that right there, that's the problem that they're starting to have is people can have fun. I'm having fun. I think plenty of people are having fun with this event and in Star Citizen. I've had more fun in this game this year than I've ever had before. But fun doesn't necessarily equal confidence. And if there's anything CIG needs to foster, it is confidence. We've been in this for over a decade, and it's they gotta prove. Now we've got server meshing in. They've passed this milestone. They could focus on the stability and actually getting content into something that scales higher than a 100-player tech demo server. But they can't just build the game. They need to also build up their community and build up their reputation. And that reputation needs to precede them if they want to sell a AAA game for, I don't know how much they're going to charge for it next year, but like, as soon as they start marketing that, people are going to start catching on. They won't know immediately, but they'll start catching on that Squadron 42 is made by the same team that's making Star Citizen. And that will affect the way that it's marketed. It'll affect the people who want to purchase it, the conversation surrounding it. And I think like a lot of our expectations is that they are getting the game into a place where it can match Squadron, and we've been saying it needs to be there by the time Squadron releases, but how about by the time Squadron starts getting marketed?
Well, yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, yeah, like I said, I have very little confidence that the game is going to seriously improve until the company can focus on Star Citizen. I think as long as they're working on Squadron, I just really struggle to see how they're going to really ramp up playability, stability, content. I feel one thing that they could do, I suppose, is as they finish off Squadron, which again, like we said, we have no idea where we've got no idea what that even means at this point. Are they 90% there? Are they 95% there? Are they
feature complete, dude? Done? Just deal with it.
Yeah, feature complete, and
that's the last progress we got on it, huh?
That was the year before, wasn't it? This year. They just gave us the window. They just gave us the release. Chris's phrase was something like, and forgive me if I get this slightly wrong, but it was something like, this is 2026 is something that they're confident they can pull off, like rather than it being 2025 at any point. I don't know when exactly he said that, but yeah, we've got no idea if it's because they don't tell us anything about it apart from the Squadron newsletters, which we are due another one at some point. So that'll be interesting to see. But there is a chance that as they actually finish off Squadron, whenever that happens, that let's go back to my numbers before. Say that 80% of Squadron, percent of the company working on Squadron slowly starts to filter back to Star Citizen, and maybe as we get closer to Squadron's release, maybe more of the company is able to suddenly just give Star Citizen the injection of life that it needs. A med pen basically in the arm, doesn't it? It needs a big boost, and maybe even they'll hold back Squadron later into 2026, and we've talked about this before, to allow Star Citizen to get a bit better, because I think it's clear as we get past the halfway now point of this year that the year of playability, unless something dramatic happens in the second half of the year, isn't going to be enough to make the game, put it in a good enough place to, like you say, to be paired with Squadron, so that I mean, it wouldn't be shocking that when you open up Squadron, there's some sort of advert for Star Citizen in there, or some sort of link or whatever. Like, they're going to want to sell both. But in order for that to work, I think we need a lot longer than this year of playability is going to turn into. I think it needs to be a lot longer than a year.
Dude, it's the road to 4.0, 2.0.
Oh, all right. Well, let's not even talk about 1.0. Goodness, yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I think that the playability push is going to take a while. I mean, we all said at the beginning of the year, like they can pause the feature development, but what happens when features start coming back in?
Well, that's a very good point as well. Yeah. And the answer is, well, things will break again. The crazy thing is, and I think maybe we talked about this last time, is that because they've not changed the engine really since 4.0, this should be more stable. This is like when we had 3.15 and 3.16, where they didn't take a new branch, they didn't take a load of stuff from the engine, and they didn't do a new version basically. They've not moved anything in from their kind of main development branch all year in terms of like big features or anything like that. But we know Ali Brown confirmed that they're going to, at some point, probably within the next couple of patches, next few months, you'd think, they're going to be bringing across things like upscaling stuff, and they are Vulkan updates as well. So they will be taking on more engine tech, and that is another possibility that things will just get more buggy. And so if the game is as buggy as it is now, and they've not really chucked any features in, like you say, well, we should all start praying for when engineering comes in, because engineering is the big thing that is, in theory, might come in some point this year, at least in the tech preview channel, maybe. But this is my point, that until they can fully focus on this stuff, I think we're just in for more of the same, which is a depressing thought in some ways. But
yeah,
but like I say, it's not all bad, because this event, when it works and you can get it working, is kind of fun. So,
dude, that's what I'm sitting here thinking. I'm like, I legitimately, if this game was playing, it's like what Chris said in his letter here. The sentiment many of you have shared, and one we wholeheartedly agree with, is that if the current game as it stands today ran smoothly with fewer obstacles and bugs, it would provide an unparalleled experience. That is fully true.
And it would for a time. That would be okay for a number of months, and then people would be like,
where are the features?
Where's the stuff?
Yeah. But we never really reached that. And I sit here and I'm like, dude, if I were able to just take a play session, drop down into the Hathor place, get some loot and cool stuff, fly it off somewhere else and sell that to a store, and then hop in somebody's ship and go run some ship combat missions with them, take out a ship, take the cargo off there, go turn it in for like an event that's running. If all that stuff ran smoothly and worked, and it'd be so much fun. But I think that's what really people are so bummed about. It's like they just want to play a good version of Star Citizen, a properly functioning version of Star Citizen.
I think that is true. I think Chris he's not wrong, that if it functioned perfectly, that it would be a much more appealing to many more people, and I think many of the current backers would play a lot more. But yeah, the lack the lack of, if you look at the stuff that has to come in to 1.0, there is so many features, and so it they can't. I don't see how can they? How can we expect them to get get the game into that place where it is like fully working, but and then at the same time make progress towards 1.0? How could they possibly do that? Is that,
Well,
I don't even know if that's possible.
I can tell you that 10Pound42 because Chris described it with the new ePTU. When a new feature is deemed complex or risky enough to require focused testing, we'll introduce a separate experimental PTU channel dedicated to that feature. Testing in this channel,
No, they won't.
isolated to refine and stabilize the feature, only impacting content and proper development work later after it's been fully greenlit. That's how.
Well, I call fake news or whatever on that. I think
We haven't seen a single ePTU this year, have we?
Nope.
We saw more last year.
We saw one last year with, well, over, it was the same thing. It was server meshing stuff, but
yeah.
no, they even that is still, even if, so the plan this year, it was talked about Con42 with Torsten talking about engineering plan. The plan is to have a tech preview or an EPTU. I don't know what the difference is at this point between the two, but he said they'd have one for engineering, but they still at some point then have to branch that back into the main game, and still at that point there's still going to be bugs. So it's almost impossible for the game to ever become really playable, because unless you basically cut half the things from 1.0 and you don't ever go for it. But that's not what people want. This is the problem. People want the vision of 1.0 and the stability of a normal game. They're not that compatible, those two things. Like,
but these are both things they promised.
Well, they are both things they promised, but I think they probably have overpromised again. I think.
Surprise.
I don't want to say, I don't want to dismiss it as being impossible, but what I'm saying is I think the journey from here to 1.0 is long, and it is going to be super bumpy. I just, again, if suddenly the company fully focuses on on Squadron 42 rather than the MMO, if it focuses on Squadron, start again. If it focuses on Star Citizen once Squadron is done, and we see what the company can do when they're focusing on one game at the time, suddenly maybe things in terms of stability and feature development might really get a lot better, because they're not straddling these two separate projects at the same time, which are both obviously pretty massive. But it's a long journey, and I think it's going to be really hard for them to make the game playable whilst making 1.0. I think it's going to be really hard.
Yeah. I remember when they did an Inside Star Citizen on engineering back in, I think, 2023 maybe, and Torsten told us that engineering was going to be closer than we thought.
Oh dear. Let's move on from that.
Let's talk about this event that's going on right now. I personally really like it. I love the idea of it. I love being able to choose between mining or cargo hauling or even combat. I can't wait until salvage gets mixed into there, probably with like the Maelstrom system or something, to be able to salvage a ship and get the materials you need from it. I love how you can do it solo or as a group, and it feels really good to do as a group. What I don't like is that the group system still feels like it is hampering people if they do it as a group as opposed to doing it as a solo. What are your thoughts on this event so far, and do you feel like the goals that they set out for with this event are being fulfilled in any way?
Yeah, so if we pretend it works perfectly, which obviously we talked about it, and it doesn't, but if we pretend it does, I actually haven't had that bad a time with it so far. So I've chosen Hurston, which, boo to me, everybody who hates Hurston can be very upset with that, but maybe this is the point to bring it up. Hurston is winning for sure. Yeah, Hurston has won. It's already over.
Well, I mean,
in the numbers.
Okay, look at that.
Yeah, the numbers
I won't say anything about that.
Okay. So basically what I've done so far, I've done the starter mission, and I started off doing a medium haul with a freelancer max, and then it's out there pretty much as general knowledge now that the way to do this event is to get yourself an Argo raft and do the large hauling missions, and that's the fastest way and most efficient way to do the event. And so I did that, and I doing that had no actual issues, none. Like, I went down to the outposts, got my stuff. The issues I had were things like having to on 2 of the occasions when I went down to the outpost, I had to go to a different freight elevator because one of them wasn't working. And then when you get back to your hangar, the issue is that you can't currently in your own freight elevator in your hangar, you have to have only one layer, otherwise it doesn't work. So that's what's going on at the
Oh
moment.
yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, otherwise it just doesn't work, which slows things down a bit. So that was quite successful for me, and it, in some ways, apart from people helping out on the pads and seeing ships fly around, in some ways it kind of felt a bit like a single player game, in that I was just bobbing around doing my own thing, like getting wrist problems trying to scroll the mouse wheel and all that sort of stuff for the cargo stuff. But it felt quite straightforward and quite good. Today, though, before this, I thought, well, I'll try some of the other ones out. I tried, first of all, I tried to take the new ship, the new hotness, the Meteor, out to one of the large defend cargo ship things. That was a mistake because the Meteor doesn't take much damage before it dies.
Ooh, it hurts
And then
real nice.
Yeah. And then I did a couple of the small ones with the Hornet Mark II, and that was fine. But it's so much slower because the number of cargo you get per one is much slower than doing the haul. And then I also tried to do one of the retrieve missions, where you basically, there's a ship that's dead in the water. You've got some people flying around that you've got to kill, and then you do that. This is where things went slightly wrong. I had crashed the desktop, which I have had actually a couple doing this event. That's so rare for me and my
Same.
PC. I rarely get crashed to desktops. Have you had some?
Yeah, I had one, and I was like, oh, I actually, in the middle of testing my, I published some RSI Meteor first impressions. Check it out. It's on Space Tomato Plays. Go find it on the Space Tomato 2 channel. But I just published that, and in the middle of that, you can actually see a part where like I'm flying, and then I crash out, and then I get back in, and my mission, and I'm in the same place, but my mission is gone. Yeah, that doesn't happen to me either. That's interesting.
Yeah, so from a stability point of view, that's interesting. That actually this patch seems to maybe be actually a bit of a downgrade as well.
No.
Anyway, yeah, and but then also in that mission, I crashed. I came back in. My ship had been, I think, disabled at that point. But then I exited my ship and got stuck in the middle of my ship's geometry. And then I had to go and get another ship, and I came back, and it completed. But effectively, the raft large haul mission is the way to do this, because it's not. I don't know if you found this. The actual number that you're going for, because the scale on the journal entry, it's a bit misleading. The actual number that you need to go for is very high, and so even if you're on like the third notch or whatever, you got the third lot of rewards, you've still got a long way to go in terms of how many missions you've got to do. So
like it's not actually scaled correctly. It's like exponential, but they show it linear.
Yeah, it's a bit misleading. So it's like 2,800 or something that you actually need to get. And so I've got all my I've got my first 3 Hurston rewards, but I've only got 800 odd SCU, and so I've got a long way to go. And so I assume that one of the big complaints, like you said, has been that doing this in a group, the progress is so slow. The way it splits the rewards, it's brutal. Has that been your experience?
It is slower. I find myself wondering how much that should matter. I mean, I know that rewards are a reason, a motivation to do things.
Yep.
But the gameplay should be good enough that that's not the whole deciding factor. I mean, we're still working as a group towards the ultimate goal, so like that should be enough. But then yeah, you start to realize like, wait, my own personal rewards aren't going to come for a while, and that seems like that's part of the design of the event that would need to change. Like it can't be that lopsided. No, it doesn't have to be like, oh, you can do this completely single player, but you can, whatever I'm trying to say. But I think as a group, you should still feel like you're making some level of progress on your own path.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think they've possibly not. Well, I think they haven't got it quite right in terms of either the overall rewards and what people are going for. Because I don't know if CRG as a company anticipated that many people would do multiple sets. As in, it seems as though a lot of people. I've seen a few Reddit posts and whatever, people saying, "I've done all 4 already," and I'm like, "How on earth have you done that? You must have
Holy
literally."
crap, dude.
Exactly. So I don't I don't know if when they built the mission they anticipated let's set a goal that people would be able to do in a whole month if they just did one. Maybe that's what they were thinking, but it seems as though a lot of people are going for at least 2 sets. Maybe some people are trying to do all 4. I mean, originally when it came out, I thought, well, maybe I'll just try for all 4. But now having got to 800 SEU in Hurston, I'm thinking maybe I'll do one more. But the gameplay itself, if you're literally just doing the raft, it's not like it's thrilling. Like it's not the sort of thing that I think I could see myself just doing 4 times over for all the 4 awards. It's pleasant. Put some music on. You're hauling around. It's like, but it's not like. I personally don't find it exhilarating gameplay. Let's put it like that.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. But
it's good. It's a good
did
event.
Seem,
it's not combat.
Yeah, so I think the way that they presented it too was like, just play the things that you normally do and do them in a certain area and you'll get some rewards.
I think that's wrong.
Yeah?
I just think I don't think many people have got the time to do that. I think so many people will go for the meta, the most effective tactic available. They'll go for the raft.
Well,
and they'll just do that. Because if you try to just do it by combat, it's going to take you a seriously long time if you're into combat.
I see. I think that should be the way that it works, though.
Yeah.
It should be a kind of thing where you don't feel like you need to completely change your gameplay. Like in a perfect world, if this game were running how I would hope, there would be enough events, enough specific rewards that every player did not feel like they needed to do every single thing that CIG released. And in that regard, then it could be along the lines of like, yeah, you'll get certain rewards if you get this far. But like, you're not necessarily pushing for those rewards. You're just getting them because you're doing the stuff.
Yeah, I think some people would feel like that. I think some people. I mean, I personally quite like being asked to do something I don't normally do. So I didn't own a raft. I've bought one in game with some in-game money, and done it that way. That's in some ways it's different gameplay to what I'd probably normally choose to do. So I don't mind it being different. Like, I mean, I think in my video I said, oh, if they'd just done mining, for instance, people would complain about not having mining ships. But then somebody pointed out in a comment, well, they could have just let given everybody an account rental for a month for a mining ship and said, go and learn how to mine. If you don't, I mean, they're never going to keep everybody happy. But I think what's problematic here is that they're not the different ways of doing this aren't balanced equally. Like there's a clear, most efficient way to do this. Yeah. I think if you do go out and mine and you have to mine and refine 2,800 SCU is a huge job. It's like, yeah, I agree. If some people, if they want to just play the game as they normally do, which is what CIG said, if you just have to have quite a lot of time and you have to be playing the game quite a lot already for that to work. And I don't know how many people are playing the game that much.
That's a lot of pain
to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then if it doesn't work, like we were saying, then it's even worse. So,
from the perspective of, sorry, I just completely dropped what I was about to say. From the perspective of people who are jumping into this event, though, what is the biggest problem that you see that they could fix? I mean, obviously the elevators are a big issue, and the armistice zones, I think, are kind of causing some troubles. But do you think there's anything that they could actually do right now to make it run a lot better? The obvious things.
I think apart from the bugs, I don't know how they would ever they obviously can't rebalance the reward system at this point. Like that's not fair to everybody who's already done it. Yeah, the armistice system, they can't probably change that mid-patch. That's not that.
You know.
Tell me what are your issues with the armor system?
Oh. Um, they have the same issue that Master Modes did, in my opinion, which was just this artificial limitation on what you could do based on something that wasn't really apparent. So when you go down
Okay.
to this location and you pick up a box and you're walking up the landing ramp of your ship that you had to park off of the landing pad because there's already somebody on the landing pad because there's only one landing pad. As soon as you get off the landing pad, your tractor beam cuts out. Doesn't tell you why.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any
Okay.
clear indication as to like what you were doing wrong. And then when you go and you can walk up the ramp onto your ship and then maybe it works because you're on the ramp, but then you get inside your ship and it stops working again. And then like, okay, fine. So you walk back down to go get your next box, but then you see somebody's carrying your box away. So you try to tractor beam that, but your tractor beam's not working because you're off the landing ramp and they're on it. And nothing in the game is telling you why this is all happening. And it's
Yeah.
so dumb because this is all based around the idea of physically moving things and taking responsibility for things. We don't have an ownership system that allows us to say this cargo can be moved by these people besides a party system of some sort. We don't have any sort of defenses at the outposts where people are freely coming and going to take like I mean, okay, fine, sure. Yeah, these are like distant outposts on some moon. The company's not really going to care too much if people are there. It's probably low population. I'm talking about this if we were living in the IP. But could you imagine having the world that we live in with Star Citizen and then having outposts that are full on at least 20 minutes away of travel from security services and not having like any sort of turrets or anything to stop bad actors?
Yeah.
And so I just look at like how we have this design of the game that we know that they want to pursue, but then we have the reality of the game, which is something that is still left over from the 3.0 days because it was just designed for a server with 50 people in it. You wouldn't even be running into that many people who might come and steal your stuff. But now, not only are there 600 people here, they're all kind of getting them to focus in on the same channels, but there's not really much way to deter them other than this artificial wall that doesn't really communicate with you.
Yeah.
To put it short.
And people can still tractor beam cargo away.
Yeah.
Like,
Which is, I'm fine with
so,
that, but then nothing happens to them.
well, you can't stop them. That's my only problem with that, is that you can't pull out a gun. Say somebody, you could be loading up your ship, somebody just walks off with one of your things. You can't do a single thing.
Yeah.
That's problematic. Yeah, they can't fix this. There's nothing they can do for this version of this event that they can change now. Like, it is what it is. I've had, whether I've been lucky or whether this is the general experience, I've had no issues turning up to one of these outposts, waiting in a queue after I had to wait after a couple of people. I helped them unload their stuff. And then they left. I moved in. I've had no issues. I know there are people though. There's been pad ramming in some reports.
Oh, yeah.
There's been people just stealing cargo. You could argue that a much better solution would be not to have an open freight elevator. Like, you could argue that you should turn up to these outposts, you land in an instant hangar, you do all your stuff, and then you open up and you fly away. Like that, or even doing that at distribution centers, like I said before. Like, they could have put distribution centers on all of the different moons and planets around the other ones that don't have them, and made that the solution. Part of me quite likes the idea that you can just have some sort of interaction outside. Like, it's been nice seeing people and having people help you, and
Yeah.
that's been quite nice. It looks visually fun, and it feels a bit. I think when you're in your own hangar, you're obviously just in your own world. But I almost would prefer them to have. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe this is not right, but they almost would be better with no armor system zone than the one what they've got now. But probably the hangars is the right solution to
Yeah.
just be able to be safely in your own space.
Distribution hangars would have been great. distribution center hangers.
Yeah.
But I think this is really pointing out how features are holding back the content, because that's a feature. It's not only is it a feature, it's something they're talking about introducing in 4.3. I think it's going to be at specific locations, but AI turrets are something that they're now talking about, and cutting out feature development is you don't get that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And there's still questions around how that would work, the AI turrets. So again, in the current system, if somebody just starts walking off with your cargo, how are they marked as a hostile? Like, does that mean that people that aren't in your party can't touch your cargo? Can they not tractor onto it? And if they do, they get marked as a hostile, and then a turret pops up out of the floor and shoots them. There's questions around it, but yeah. There needs to be a huge increase in Stanton's, at least, security forces. And it does make sense that from a law point of view, I suppose, that the companies would not allow people to just mess around on their property. Like, if you're there doing something you shouldn't be able to do, you should just get shot, probably.
That's what I say in America.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Shoot 'em,
So get off my lawn. Yeah, I don't know. The only thing I'll do to defend everybody involved, and it's kind of what I said in my video, is like, some of this stuff is really complicated. It's not like, some of it isn't. Some of it is stuff that they should have maybe seen. Some of these mistakes potentially they could have predicted, but some of it is hard, and it's the game is huge. It's complex. There's multiple systems interacting with each other. There's multiple people trying to do different things. You've always got pirates trying to do one thing. You've maybe even got griefers trying to do a separate thing. Like, it isn't a straightforward. We're not just playing football or soccer. Like, the game isn't like set, and with your computer game, you just make a football game. Like, and you know the rules and everything. Like, it's changing, it's evolving over time. They're bringing new features, and things have to change again. It is the most ambitious game I think ever made, and so it's probably shouldn't surprise us when things come out and they're broken. But there are still things that they should have probably fixed.
Like you said earlier, I think it only surprises us because of the messaging.
Well, yeah.
This event, I don't think anybody really would have had a problem with this event if it had happened a year ago. If anything, a year ago, people would have been like, "Oh my God, they're getting the in-game rewards here." Like, they said that last CitizenCon, and now here they are, which they did start doing, I think, last year. But this is the first time it feels like they've really dug deep to bring out that pot. And yeah, I don't know. I think this could be great. I think even as is being said in the supporter chat here, the teamwork aspect of it, being able to work together with other people, has been really cool. It's the first time, along with the whole server meshing and larger shard sizes, it's the first time it feels like you're playing amongst a community and not just playing like a single player game where you kind of sometimes see some folks. That's how I feel when I'm playing Dune.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
In terms of the companies, I saw this on the Star Citizen subreddit recently. Somebody was complaining kind of about role players and how, like, certain people are picking companies based on the role play and the lore and all that kind of stuff, and like, why are they doing that? I wanted to pitch the question to you. At what point does it go from I just kind of watching the game unfold in front of you and paying attention to what companies do what, and when does it become role playing, or like, when is it not matter what the lore behind the company is and just the skins that they're putting out, in your opinion?
Oh, well, I think this does really depend on the sort of player you are. I mean, maybe you're talking to the wrong person, because I accidentally joined a terrorist group earlier in the year or last year without knowing I did. So maybe my character's reputation is already in tatters. So maybe that's why he's gone to work for Hurston. But
Fitting.
yeah, well, yeah, terrorist and corporate overlord. sewage person. Yeah, I don't know. Some people live for this, don't they? They live for the role play side of it. Some people live for the cosmetic side of it and the skins. I don't think we can expect everybody to react in the same way. What seems obvious in this case, though, is that the skins do seem to have played a huge role, because or at least maybe the proportion of people in the community who care about skins seems to be much higher than the proportion of people who care about the
Workers'
the
rights.
dodgy law. Yeah, workers' rights. Yeah. So obviously, I don't know if this is the time to bring it up, but have you got the stats for?
Yes. Yeah,
Bring up
actually.
the stats for.
So anybody who's
This was
watching this, I'm
about an hour
oh,
old.
not that one. Nope, not that one either. So this is wrong one. Nope. Where the heck is it? There we go. This was last week. You guys who were watching the show last week saw that Hearthstone Dynamics was definitely leading and Crusader was losing. But the spread was about 3 million SCU, right? Let's take a look at this week's. And you said this was about an hour ago?
Yeah, roughly, wasn't it?
So now Hearthstone Dynamics is up to 102 million. And fourth place is down at 42 million. So the spread is massive now. And it's not even a contest at this point. I mean, I think a huge concerted effort might be able to get Microtech up there, but we'll see what happens over the next few weeks or however long they run this. But Hearthstone has run away with it. And you can see 10 Pound has been helping them, aiding and abetting. What do you have to say for yourself?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if anybody watches my channel, they know that most of the testing I do when I'm doing performance testing is all about Lorville and running around Lorville. So I feel a strange sense of loyalty. Maybe the pollution has polluted my mind, but I spend so much time there that it has to be Hearthstone for me. It had to be. I mean, the point probably is it's not necessarily just the skins, because they're doing this 5% discount in the landing location and the station above. It's possible that has also played into people's thinking around Hearthstone. It's quite central in the system. Yeah, I do think a lot of people just like the goldy type.
Black and yellow, man.
Skins.
It looks good.
It does look good. And so you could have maybe. Is it a problem that Hearthstone will win?
No.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't like. I honestly don't care which company wins. I just love the idea of what exists in this world that we're giving so much of our time and in some cases money to like play and live and thrive in. I feel like some of it should matter. And I'm not saying that people need to force themselves to read all the lore and stuff like that. You don't have to. You could just go and land in Lorville. You can see that people have to wear bags on their heads to breathe. You could see that the leaders have gigantic golden statues of them. The building that's the main building is overlooming the rest of the city, and it's the only clean place you can go. There are shanty towns that are abandoned outside the city walls. There are city walls. Like there are signs in the game that you're supposed to feel a certain way about these places. And I just wonder at which point does it switch from, oh, this is just set dressing, to I don't really want to be associated with this. I know it's a video game, and so that doesn't really matter. But I do think that that's part of what drew me to this, was like, it was so interesting. The story around how Stanton was conquered by the UEE, by people who were already there. And then the UEE basically just genocided these people and then realized, oh crap, we can't afford this system. So they sold it off to corporations. And then these corporations figured out how to make these weird planets work for them. And some of them went along with tourism, while others went along with blowing their whole planet up. And I love when those kinds of things make a difference in the way the game is played. And we've been waiting years for that kind of thing to actually matter. And I thought, no, this is a chance for it to start to matter. But I guess it's still just not built into the game enough yet.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it depends how you play your video games. Like, I typically try to play the good guy. I mean, like I said, I've been a terrorist and a Hearthstone supporter, so maybe it's going wrong. But typically, like if I play like Star Wars games or whatever, or something like Knights of the Old Republic, where there's choices and like that, or Mass Effect, I'm normally leaning. I just can't help myself but try to do the right thing. But then occasionally you have moments where you do the wrong thing, where you just choose the crazy decision because, like, in that moment it feels like the right thing.
Yeah.
You
Punching
mentioned the
somebody as
altars.
Commander Shepard. Sorry. That's a big
Yeah,
one for
yeah,
me.
yeah. You mentioned the spoiler. You mentioned the altars, and that's a game where it's a lot of choices. And I after your little video about it, I thought, all right, I'm going to play this, and I've played it. I've run through it, and I really loved it. So thank you to you.
Yeah, of
But
course.
that's a lot of choices, and some of those choices, again, I tried to make the right choice, but some towards the end, I made probably what would not be classed as the good choice. And I think I wonder with this whole thing that in video games, as this kind of, we're maybe going way out there now, but the escapism nature of video games, I wonder if some people quite like playing the bad guy sometimes, and they or changing or just doing something a bit different. And maybe there's something about the golden statues of Hurston where you're like, yeah, I'm all about this. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes.
It's yeah. I think it will be interesting to see if they run something similar to this again with the four corporations pitted against each other. It's quite interesting, so I hope they do. If the rewards are slightly different, we maybe will find out if it was the rewards. So, like, if they maybe deliberately make the Hurston rewards not look as good next time, it would be interesting to see if that was it, or whether will people just pick a visual thing. Or yeah, it's interesting.
mean,
It's an interesting thing.
there aren't consequences, so it would be interesting if the team that you played for, or maybe at some point you had to pick a home system or a home planet, and like if you picked a home planet on ArcCorp, then like it's so crowded, so all the apartments are smaller. If you picked Hurston, you'd have a higher tax because they're ridiculous and they just like to take your money every day for some reason. If you picked Crusader, I don't know. The air isn't as easy to breathe, so you run out of air faster. I'm not sure. And then Microtech is like it's freaking cold, and there are Yetis running around out there. You can figure something out, but like there's only pros still, and no real cons gameplay wise, other than what stores are available in what places.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's not a bad idea. The problem is, as we go back to our slightly more doomy part of this, is that probably none of this is really gonna. This is obviously like a test in some ways for them to put something in the game that we change. The idea that there'll be kind of real meaning around these choices, it might be something that's like way down the line. Like if we're saying 1.0 is the point that they're saying they're not wiping anymore, and the game is done to a minimum standard, that's really the point where things like your character's history and the lore, probably people might start to think about that a bit more. But for now, it's hard to escape the idea that it's just kind of testing.
It's testing, yeah. You're
and
right.
it's not real.
I'm getting dragged too much into the sauce.
Well,
Getting years ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, some people are drawn into the idea of being a person in Star Citizen and running around and having their own companies. Look, people set up orgs and things like that around roleplay, and I think that's totally fine. I'm not going to dismiss that. I think some people on the other side are all about gameplay. Some people are about collecting items. It's all, there's just a variety of people and different motivations, I think, around why they play the game. And it's been interesting to see how this event has panned out. And yeah, go Heston.
Good Lord. The content they've been dropping this year, as we talked about earlier on, was a big part of playability. So with stability and performance, I don't think those have taken nearly the same kinds of step up. Is definitely not as obvious steps up. But they have been releasing quite a bit of content this year, not to excuse the contracts that we have lost, but maintenance missions in Pyro, plus basically all the Pyro stuff. The what's it called? Align in Mine, the Hathor facilities, the ASD facilities. Now this event, the Hunt the Polaris events. Like these are all content drops that are giving people stuff to do. But it feels like they're just continuously landing poorly. Not for everybody. Some people are enjoying them, but why do you think they're not quite popping off as big a deals as maybe CIG was hoping?
Well, I think all of them have got problems in terms of how well they work. So there's lots of reports around bugs with things like Hathor and the Worm, and obviously this one has come out pretty broken. So yeah, from a content point of view, I guess content that isn't paired with stability. Let's forget performance for now. Like, but if you have content that isn't stable and doesn't work, it's really going to dampen people's enthusiasm. I think it's probably the obvious answer to why it's not hit. I mean, again, you would up until this point you would say that there's been too much combat focused stuff throughout this year in a game that, whilst it is combat, it also isn't combat. And so this event, in theory, swings the pendulum back in the other direction and gives people who aren't interested in combat. I mean, you can do the combat missions, but if you literally want to just do some cargo hauling, which a lot of people, that's their thing, it provides that. So I think if had this one worked a bit better, I think it would have been received. I think, like you say, it's in its essence, it's a decent event, and so it's just it didn't work.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
Thing.
It just needs to work.
No, it has to work a lot better than it did work initially. And like we say, there's been hot fixes now. In a couple of weeks' time, will it be pretty much working? Probably, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see. But for a lot of people, like you said, the damage is done. That they turned the game on. There's a new thing to do, and it was completely you couldn't even get the starter missions at the start. And so for a lot of people, they're like, "Oh, stuff that, I'm done with this." But yeah, in terms of their overall content not dropping that well, yeah, I just think they're really not it isn't the mission, like the mission design team. They're all the things that they put in the game this year so far. Those three major things: the ASD, the Hathor, and this. They're, in theory, they're all good things to add to the game. It's just nobody can see that if they don't work.
Yeah, they're hurt by both stability and just a lack of some pretty ground level features like reputation working.
Well, I don't even know if reputation is a thing anymore. I feel like wasn't it taken over by the mission team, reputation? I feel like that's
a while ago.
It was.
Yeah.
And I think they're not working on it.
No.
I think they're working on all this content, and so it's almost as though another casualty within this year of stability is reputation. I mean, I still just can't get over how the pyro gangs came out in such a kind of lackluster way. Yeah, the opportunities for reputation-based stuff in the pyro system with the gangs is huge, and they didn't do anything. Yeah. Even what they promised in CitizenCon a couple of years ago, when they promised certain areas that would be gated behind reputation and on the stations, and the pyro's reputation is almost non-existent. It doesn't, and so yeah, I think reputation is something that they may get round to again at some point in the next few years, but for now, I think it's way right off the bottom of the list of priorities. And if it is the mission designs team, if it's the mission guys who are working on it, they're clearly not working on it. They're clearly working on these events.
Yeah, that's honestly, the reputation is one of the things that I'm more excited about in this game, being able to, that again, I guess, just define who you want to be in the game, and then you get to have like your teams that recognize and treat you better because you worked for them before. Just you don't get that anymore. And it's supposed to be the kind of the pseudo law system in Pyro. You can't come to these places because I'm on good terms with these places and they're going to mess you up.
That's kind of what they said, but that just is not what they've done in the end.
Yeah. So wrapping this all up, year of playability, communication, this recent event release and how it represents the content that's being released this year so far. We're not really seeing features as much. And you even mentioned, I think, that like communication you feel has taken a step back this year.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's yeah. My next video, I think I'll probably make about this, but I think this project was built on the concept of open development. That was probably why so many people were drawn in at the start. They were showing us stuff regularly, weekly. They were giving us insight into decision making and the process of game development, which I think a lot of people are a bit sick of by now. But the idea was that you knew what was going on, and obviously you had things like the roadmap for a while was quite a long-term thing. You could always see vaguely where things were heading, even if things got pulled off the roadmap, and then everybody got upset, which is
Where things were supposed to head.
Yeah, exactly. But this year, I mean, I've done the numbers, but I can't remember them off the top of my head. The amount of content that they've put out, video content that the company's put out now, is such a drastic drop compared to last year at this stage in the year. But it's almost questionable whether they are actually still doing open development, I would say. It now resembles a lot more, if you follow other games, it's not unusual to have maybe a monthly update or a half yearly update or a roadmap that comes out and the level of CIG's communication has dropped down to what other game companies are doing.
It's not even a roadmap. It's literally just what is in the next patch, and most of the time that the roadmap isn't where we learn all those things. Like,
yeah,
the roadmap is short.
It's effectively useless. It doesn't actually really achieve anything at this point, and even the 1.0 bit. What does that mean? That's because there's no concept of when that will come or anything. And so I think that combined with the lack of features this year is just meaning that people are feeling less engaged. I know a number of people I've spoken to or I speak to who they're just taking a break, because although the content has been coming out, when the content doesn't work, what else is there this year? If the content isn't good this year, what else is there to latch onto and be excited about or to dream about in the future? Star Citizen has always been a game where you're looking to what it will be one day in the future, and now there's nothing to latch onto, and maybe that's because Squadron 42 again is not talked about at all. It's completely behind closed doors, the development for that. Maybe it's because we're in that normal summer lull that we talked about, where in the summer there's not much going on and they stopped talking about anything because of CitizenCon. Maybe this whole year they've just been working on CitizenCon stuff and they're going to go big at CitizenCon with Squadron. I don't know, but I think it leaves a person who's watched basically every single piece of content they've ever put out every week, which maybe says more about my problems in life, but
and mine.
And a lot of people. I think it leaves me feeling less enthusiastic about following along the development every week where they don't put anything out. You look at this week is in Star Citizen post and some weeks it's like there's literally nothing.
Yeah.
And that goes against everything they've done for the last 12, 13 years or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So add communication to the list of things that have been kind of going on this year. To once again, I just want to say we've talked plenty about how like things have been fun. They've been having a good time in the game, but things are clearly different than how they've been. And I must ask the question, because it is that time of year again, and I think I'm going to even name this episode with a tongue-in-cheek joke, guys, tongue-in-cheek, because it's not actually dying. But
I have to get this far into the episode.
Now we'll know. If you got to see this part, comment down below. Did you get the tongue-in-cheek? Is Star Citizen dying again? Because we reach this period every summer, but I think every year is a little bit different for different reasons, and I want to know what you think based on these different things we've talked about here. Is there like any worry for you, short, medium term, for this game right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Any worry that it's actually dying? I mean, I think I've probably said this every time I've come on the podcast. I think the health of the project at this point is completely tied up in Squadron 42. I think if you see the whole thing as one big picture, although it is two separate games, they're not. They are linked. You can't separate them completely. If let's do an imaginary what happened. If Squadron comes out in 2026 as they've said it will, and it's good, then this period now that we're in, where content feels a bit broken, it feels like where are the features, what's happening in the communication. I feel this will fade away. If Squadron comes out in 2026 and it's good, this will fade away because we have had very poor periods in the game before. We've had droughts. We've had the wait for 3.0 was about 12 months. Was that?
Yeah, no, not even an update. There was just nothing for 12 months in the game.
Yeah, and we obviously 4.0 took a lot longer than anybody thought it would. 3.18 was a complete disaster. Like I say, every summer it almost feels like, I mean, if somebody trying to cover the game, make videos about it, it's like drawing blood from a stone, isn't it? Like there's nothing to talk about. And so this, if Squadron comes out and is good, then this will all be forgotten, I think. And then we will see if they can push forward on Star Citizen towards 1.0. That caveat, though, as a lot of people have commented to my video, a lot of people have said, "Oh, but they're going to just work on Squadron 42 Part 2 or Squadron 43."
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I don't think they're going to do that, but I mean, it's possible they will. But if that doesn't happen, if they focus on Star Citizen, however, in the other direction, if Squadron either gets delayed again out to 2026, or comes out in 2026 and is bad, like legitimately a bad game.
Oh my God.
That is badly reviewed. If either of those things happen, I think we are in trouble. And in terms of Star Citizen dying, I think those scenarios will be seriously problematic. I think if it gets delayed again, I think the community will go nuts. They'll go absolutely nuts. And
oh boy.
And obviously the community does go nuts fairly regularly, but I think it would be like a volcano erupting. I think it would be unreal, the response to another delay, because if they're saying it's feature complete, if they're saying they're taking the last 2 years to polish, if they delay again, people will just stop believing it will ever come out. I think people will just be like, well, it's just because at this time, the last thing that we saw at CitizenCon last year, all the stuff that we saw on the gameplay, it was like good. It looked good visually, and it was like, this looks like a real game. Like it looked like we're actually now close to a release. But if it turns out that we're not, man,
yeah,
you'll become a rage YouTuber. I'll become a rage YouTuber. Everybody, we'll all quit. It will be carnage. And if it comes out and it's bad, then the hope that the wider gaming community will play Star Citizen, I think, really goes with it. And I think, then there has been rumblings in the background around people of saying, "Oh, are they running out of money? Is that why they're making some of these decisions? They've sold more ships this year. They've made more money this year." Despite everything we've said, but that's a thing we haven't touched on. Despite the fact that the content's been a bit iffy and broken and whatever, there's no communication. They've actually made decent money so far this year.
Yeah.
But if they run out, but if they run out of money because Squadron is a mess, well, yeah, Star Citizen obviously is in big trouble. So they're my two directions. It could be fine. Squadron comes out and is fine. If it's delayed or if it's really bad, I don't want to imagine what that would be like. What do you think?
There's your answer, folks. Write them down. Is Star Citizen dying? Depends.
Oh yeah, that's people got cross about my video there. I didn't actually give an
Well,
answer, but
yeah,
I think it
I
is
don't,
depends.
yeah, I honestly, I'm not even that like Squadron 42 coming out, that's just a whole nother chapter to think about. I'm more wondering about the next 12 months, because at this point,
Yeah,
at this rate, they're making good money, so they can keep funding Squadron 42. Clearly, people are still buying spaceships. Um, People are still paying attention and jumping in. I think it's a lower number than they were hoping for at this point, but it's hard to judge if a game is dead or dying. It's honestly even like just the idea of labeling games as dead is a little bit of a bummer because people will see a game come out on Steam and in 2 weeks, if the player
yeah,
count has dropped a bit, they'll be, oh, it's dead. There's a lot of aspects that go into that, but I do think that they need a certain amount of momentum behind the development. Like you said earlier, um, there needs to be something going on. And this year they wanted it to be all these patches and stuff, but with the feature development lagging behind and the content also then having problems, Squadron 42 not showing up, I think they could worry about how much attention they might lose going into the next year. I think a lot of people will be back if, like you said, Squadron 42 is good, but that could be an entire, what, 14, 15 months
yeah,
potentially until that happens.
yeah. I think when I say that, what my assumption would be is that if it isn't delayed, is that they will start pushing marketing for Squadron at some point. I, partly, I think, yeah, that this CitizenCon will be the point where they just go, bang, here's a ton of stuff, and then they keep dropping more stuff, trailers, behind the scenes stuff, all the stuff that maybe we've not seen this year. I assume that the teams have been making videos about for Squadron. Maybe that's optimistic, but I assume my thinking is that 20 up and for the next 12 months ish, the momentum around the project would be carried by a big push for Squadron, if that makes any
Right.
sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but again, if that doesn't happen, if it doesn't, if there is no, if it's delayed, then that can't obviously happen. And so, yeah, what do they do with Star Citizen? If what can they do? Can they suddenly start chucking the features back in? Like, can they just turn it on like that?
Hmm.
I'm not sure. So.
Yeah. Do you think
Yeah,
that
and you're
they're
right. A dying game is like, what does that even mean? There are some games that are fully released and they come out, and then you look at the Steam numbers or how many people are watching on Twitch, and within a month, it's like, well, there's nobody interested. But that doesn't apply to a game like Star Citizen, a live service game where it's just going to constantly be updated. Like that just doesn't. It 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 will never. I don't think unless something's catastrophic, like we talked about with Squadron, goes wrong, it won't die. It will just ebb and flow. It goes through ups and downs where some points it's people are engaged, some people are not. As long as they then keep improving it and keep adding to it, there's always going to be people coming back to it because the
right?
scope of it is so crazy and wild that people will always check it out if they keep adding.
I think they're in a precarious situation because they fund so much of this stuff. They've expanded so much recently with the new studios. They're paying so many people. I think there is something to be said about a proper quantitative sign that CIG is in trouble if they are starting to lay off more people, if
Yeah,
they maybe can't put as many hours into Star Citizen. If it feels like, I think right now their spaceship deliveries are feeling a little bit hectic almost, in the same way that the patches
yeah,
are, and that they're coming out quickly, and it feels like maybe they're not as definitive difference of a ship as what CIG used to put out. I think those are the signs that
yeah,
people will start to look at and say, this is not going the right direction. It might not be dead, it might not be dying, but there are some signs popping up that they need to pay more attention to the health of the community, because the community is what drives this game. It always has been, and it will be up until they can start selling Squadron 42 more. So the short
yeah.
term, I do wonder, how much are you guys worried about players kind of deciding, well, I mean, the last patch I tried this activity and it was okay and I had fun for a week, but then I took some time off. This patch was really going to bring me back with this event. Tried it for 2 weeks, but I'm not really enjoying it, so I guess I'll just take a break for the rest of the year. And like that slowly starts to stack up. People start taking more breaks. You get less eyes on the project.
Yeah. And they didn't have that issue when they had new features to drop every patch because
They're
people
always
would
interesting.
try out. There's always something to try. But when there's not new features every patch, then they've tried to replace that with new content. But as we've said, that's not gone especially well, at least in this case. I mean, they've in their future. If you were to project forward, there are so many things that come with the road to 1.0
Yeah.
that would bring people back. So things like crafting, base building, space stations one day.
Engineering.
I mean, engineering is the big one for this year. If they can bring in that, will get people will check the game out. And maybe that's all they need at this point. Is just, I mean, that's always kind of been how it's been for a lot of people, that they check it out for a couple of weeks, come back in a few
Yeah.
weeks or a few months, and so maybe they don't care too much about that. But yeah, but without the regular features to drop in, they are relying on the content to draw people. But again, this event has at least got people back in the game from
Yeah.
what we've both seen, I think.
Yeah.
So even if it was not a good, it didn't go well. In terms of like an attention grab, it has worked. But I mean, the money side of things you mentioned there about them laying off people. I think from what I was skimming it, but the SCL with the audio team, I think the audio guy talked about doubling the size of his team, and so I think there's still there was a load of doom around the finances and everything, but there's still no signs coming out of the company itself that they're really hurting for money, and so I'm not as worried about the money side as some people. Some people were thinking the ships are a real money grab, and it's signs that they're really under the cosh. But I don't see that from how the company are talking about hiring and things like that. So
About those component blades.
well, I just think that was more of a test to see what they could do more
Dude,
than a
That that kind of made me feel like it's just like at some point in some places just different people. Like with all the focus on components and customizing your ship and how much that was like a progression thing. That was just such a weird choice to me because the people who have been so in charge of those kinds of big ticket items always felt like they were very focused on ships being the thing that you would get, but then the way you treated your ship and the things you put in it was really the progression in the game. And then they were just like, oh, we're just going to throw this on the store.
Yeah. I mean, I speculated in one video that they had moved on a marketing person, or somebody had left, and that there was a new person. And so some of the things that we've seen this year have been a shift in direction from a marketing point of view. And yeah, my guess is that the monthly ships and the fact that they've made more money this year is part of that strategy. And I mean, yeah, they are good at what they do, the marketing team, as much as people hate to say that. And they successfully made this game what it is, because without 800 million or whatever, none of what we have now exists. And so they are in theory allowed to run a test like, can we sell ship components? But the problem with that was that somebody in the company should have been like, this is an awful idea. So the problem, it did seem like a completely, like, where has this come from? This doesn't match with anything you've done before. But they'll probably argue, the marketing team, well, our job is to make money. Our job is to test, how can we make money? Can we do this? Can we do that? But that one was an absolute PR disaster, and some people within the company should have shut it down before it went live. I'd be surprised if they. I wouldn't be shocked if they don't ever sell them again. They just go quiet.
Dude, that was a lightning rod. I mean, we've seen people make videos about the blunders that CIG does every now and then, but I still get recommended Luke Stevens' video about that, and it's like over 1 million views, which is high for his channel. So like, people outside of the community got real interested in what the heck CIG was doing there, and I think they probably were like, we were not expecting this much attention on this.
No, they really messed up. But like we said earlier about how there's ebbs and flows, and sometimes the game feels like it's in a disastrous place. That everybody's kind of moved on from that, haven't they? Like,
Yeah.
It's not like people are regularly talking about, oh, that I'm still angry about that. They have so much kind of positive ammunition, the CIG, to just distract us with. They could just throw out a new ship. There's this thing in the future that we're going to talk about. Even the inventory look that we got in the SCL a few weeks ago. It's like that. They just had to show a picture.
Yeah.
That was of a working, like it looked like a good version of something that's completely broken almost in game, like completely not very good in game right now. They showed us a picture, and everyone was like, "What?
I was frothing at the mouth,
It's happening!"
dude. Yeah.
Exactly. So they have their ability to move everybody past a crisis. They've got so much stuff that they can. I mean, all they have to do is say, "Is release the Ironclad," and people will go wild. Like.
Yeah, that's news
There's
these
so many
days,
things
man.
they can do.
News moves so fast, and all you have to do is distract to get past your bad PR nightmares for the most part, except unless you're a. Can't say that on YouTube. There's a lot of things they could do. Like they could release engineering EPTU next week, and we'd be like, "What event?"
Yeah,
Huh?
exactly. Absolutely, for sure. Nobody would even remember or care. Yeah. Whether that says something about people in general, or whether that's about the Star Citizen community and that we're easily distracted, I don't know. But I'm not in a full-on crisis about the state of Star Citizen right now, because I think it's been in a worse place than this. Like the fact that server meshing is in and works, still we don't really cover maybe as much as we should. It is remarkable that they just put it in the game and it works. It's incredible. And so the game is in a better place than it was this time last year just because of that. And yes, there's lots of issues still, but we're not in a worse place than we have been in the past.
Yeah. I think that's like a pretty solid conclusion here. Is like they're making mistakes as CIG does, and they can very easily fix the mistakes. They can remedy the problems they're running into. I mean, if they got freight elevators working, distribution centers useful, security services of some sort, and like, I don't know, a better quantum travel system, I think that would really remedy a lot of the problems people have right now. It wouldn't fix everything, but like if you just did that every couple months, people would feel so much better about the game. And it just comes back to the fact that a lot of these people are working on Squadron and not Star Citizen. And I don't think that's a long-term, hope that's not a long-term problem they're running into. I hope that is something that we're, like you said, going to look back on this and just be like, yeah, I mean, you can ask this question, or is the game dying every month? But like, if they drop something better in 2 weeks, suddenly people are feeling positive, and we loop back around and we'll ask it again in 12 months. And that's the annoying cycle of following a game in development for over 10 years, but that's where we are.
Yeah, and a lot of us are still here. Like it's for some reason it hasn't blown. We haven't given up. Like a lot of us are still here because we still believe there's something here that's going to turn out well. There's still hope. It's not, and so this happens. They blow events. They mess up things, and then we move on. They do good things. They do bad things. It's like you say. That's a good summary of this following this game. It's just ups and downs, and until we get to the promised land of 1.0, whenever that might be, that's probably going to be how it is.
I'm looking forward to seeing what they do the rest of the year. After this event, I'm looking forward to seeing if they do make a shift in how they're delivering these updates. If they could maybe like take a cool minute in August and say, we're not going to do a patch this month. We're going to wait until September, drop 4.3, and like kind of mid-year recalibrate a little bit. I hope that they do something like that.
They have said that they're only doing 11 patches, I think, this year.
Yeah.
So there is a month at some point where they're not going to do one. So maybe this would be maybe the summer. I mean, I'm assuming it's like most workplaces where people go on holiday over the summer, and so things don't get done on the same scale. So maybe now is the time, or potentially, if they're not going to release a main patch, maybe now is the time to put that engineering tech preview out. That would be the obvious thing as well, to not try and let's hope August, the month of the engineering tech preview. But
listen to this guy.
I don't know. That's maybe that's not the right call. But it's they said a while back when it was that Con42 thing. They said it was going to be soon. Soon only extends for so far. So
yeah, well, in 2023 they said before we expected. So when do you expect?
Well, yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, it's rough, but I genuinely think that we're in another summer of fun with Star Citizen. I think they've got some risks that they need to figure out, or not risks, but like ongoing issues they need to figure out. And like was mentioned in the supporter chat here, their biggest challenge ultimately is going to be long-term funding for the MMO, like figuring out how to fund this without continuing to sell ship concepts and exclusivity and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think they are still going to be the answer, I think, but yeah. Would you care? Do you care if they sell a ship concept?
I'm of the mindset that like they can do it, but in moderation. I think that something that they should probably try and do is, if they were going to still sell ships, and I think they should probably cap the price that they're going to sell ships at. Like if the ship is worth more than some amount, then just leave it for in-game. But if they were going to sell ships for real money, I think that those people should probably, like, you buy the ship and you get like a pre-order bonus, maybe like a skin with it that other people won't be able to get for a while or something. But then as soon as that ship comes to the game, everybody gets access at the exact same time. And like you can earn it, you can buy it, you can do whatever you want to get it in the game. I don't think there should be exclusivity to concept sales, though.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think, or at least they drop it right down the amount of time it's exclusive. I don't think many people would be worried about a couple of weeks of exclusivity if somebody's paid real money for it, but maybe I'm wrong. But I struggle to see how they're going to ever stop selling ships, especially if we as a community react so badly to their attempt to monetize the flight blades. I cannot see. It's been such a unbelievable success based on the fact that they've sold ships. It's that it seems almost madness to stop. I mean, I know that there's a perception thing that people will always say it's pay to win and all that sort of stuff, but we've talked about people who are into collecting cosmetic rewards. We've talked about people who are into like the lore of it. There's a huge, it seems, number of people who are into collecting spaceships with real money, and I think those guys have done their fair share of backing this project. And so I struggle to see a day where they turn off the new ships. Maybe
like
I'm
you're
wrong.
Describing an addiction.
Yeah, probably.
Like it's been working so well so far, can't stop.
Well, they've just done something that nobody else has been able to do, and so I mean, I imagine it'd be very hard for them to turn off that revenue stream.
Yeah,
because it's bringing in $100 million every year, and so if you were to sit down with the marketing team and maybe the finance guys and say to them, "Excuse me, everybody, I think we should stop selling ships now," I think they would be like, "Are you insane? We're not going to do that."
Yeah. And I want to say cosmetics. You know, people don't want them to do base stuff. I say sell Skyrise apartments in the Hurston Towers for real money. Like, who's that going to affect?
Yeah, there's stuff like that I can do. And obviously a lot of games are built on big cosmetic sales. Maybe that was the issue with the flight blade stuff. It wasn't a cosmetic. It wasn't It wasn't
Yeah.
just that, but they obviously are separate. So that was the thing that was mentioned also in that Star Citizen Live with the inventory thing, is that they are separating the items from the skins, and
Thank
so
God.
that does allow them to do, yeah, it does allow them to do proper cosmetic stuff and just sell
Yes.
paints rather than items linked with guns and
Yeah,
things. So
dude.
yeah, there's some stuff they can do, but let's put it this way: it will be a long time until they stop selling ships, if they ever do. Like if we're saying 1.0, they might consider stopping selling ships. Well, that's at the rate we're going now. That is a long, long way
It'll be a
away.
while.
So
Yep.
yeah,
You're right. And we've got a lot of stuff to discover from then till now. We got a lot of stuff to see this year. Honestly, it's yet another mixed bag coming out of the summer for Star Citizen, and that's what we're here for, folks. Thank you all for checking in on this episode. And if you're here at the end, I mean, this is a long episode. Thank you for watching this all the way through. If you're on a drive or the treadmill or whatever, if you were on the treadmill, I hope you never relaxed. But also, 10 Pound, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I'm sure the comments are going to be something
oh
special to
yeah,
read.
bring it on.
I hope people can understand that no matter which way this all goes, if we're right or wrong, like I'm sitting here hoping that Star Citizen succeeds here.
For
But I'm
sure, yeah.
also looking at how the game is going and realizing that like there are some things that really need to get figured out, and there are some issues that are popping up due to the way that they've just designed the whole development process over these last few years, and it's okay to acknowledge that stuff and still enjoy the game.
Yeah,
Any last
for
thoughts you
sure.
wanted to put in?
Well, just to echo that, really, if you love somebody, and I think we do all love Star Citizen, not all of us, but I love Star Citizen. If you love somebody, occasionally you have to give them some critical feedback. You have to let them know that something they're doing, it's not the best. And I think that's all this is. I think if you are unable to think critically about CRG, because that might risk, you suddenly might feel like, well, I'm portraying them or I'm not supporting the project properly.
You're killing it.
That's
Killing the
yeah.
whole project.
They actually do need some critical feedback. They have made mistakes that they shouldn't have made around this event and just in general. We are, well, I suppose, both of us here, we only want the best for the project. That's probably the only obvious thing to say. And so occasionally you have to say that wasn't very good or that needed to change. And yeah, if you can't be critical about the project, I think they need some critical feedback.
And with that, where can people find the video that you made on this whole thing?
Yeah, yeah. So £10.42 on YouTube. It's actually not spelt how it's shown here. It's with words £10.42. But yeah, if you ever search for it, normally I don't do opinion stuff, and it's because it's scary and people shout at you in the comments. But
I've noticed an
but
uptick this year, though.
yeah, well, there's been less stuff to test, but normally I do performance testing, and if you're trying to get your PC working well in Star Citizen and that sort of stuff, that's the stuff. So if you search for Star Citizen performance stuff, you'll find me. But yeah, £10.42 on YouTube, and as I always say, YouTube is plenty enough internet for me, so you can't find me anywhere else. I couldn't deal with the comments or anything like that on Twitter or anything like that. So yeah,
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, this is like the only person I know who regularly benchmarks Star Citizen. You switch out processors and graphics cards and just straight up builds to see what runs best and what doesn't play in the game. So I think that's a really valuable resource. Check it out. It'll be linked down below in the show notes if you guys want to. And thank you so much for joining us for this show. This is Launch Sequence Podcast, our weekly space games podcast, which is mostly around Star Citizen. But if you have been watching my channel, you know I'm working on a weekly series now, Space Games Weekly, where I give the news about what's going on with space games throughout the previous week. And just like that, this will also include other games. Thinking Jump Ship, Exodus, the new Expanse game coming out. These are all things that I definitely want to talk about. So consider subscribing if you like it. Maybe give a rating if you're over on Spotify. If you're anywhere else, keep in mind that we do distribute all over audio platforms and on YouTube on Space Tomato 2, where this guy actually helps to edit for. So thanks again for coming, 10 Pound. And thank you all for watching. See you all next week.